Hey guys, I said earlier that I was going to be joined by a friend to discuss the recent stuff on Dark Visions, and Gerrtt84 is going to be joining me to talk all about the Dark Visions scenario we have on Global. So you can say hello, Gert.
Hey there, guys. Happy to be here to talk about all this fun stuff. Glad to be here with you again.
Indeed. Yeah, I've had you as a guest on news videos. We chat a lot on Discord, etc. So, first of all, for players that are like totally not aware of what is going on, I will briefly catch up people of, you know, the Dark Vision scenario.
Yeah.
So the recent Dark Visions on Global, which was Dark Visions, I think number 22 for Global, it came out day one stuff. Some of the damage caps and bulk was raised a little bit, which was fine because the day one stuff is so easy. Even if they boosted the damage caps and all, no one, for the most part, really cared. I've seen some like newer players were like, "This is pretty hard to do," but most people were like, "Whatever." That was fine. Then the final three bosses came out 3 days later.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone pretty much expected, again, that the bulk would be raised or the damage cap would be raised, or basically, something would be increased because, just a fact is the meta on Global is far more powerful than JP. It pretty much always has been. So, when we got to the final bosses, the exact changes that happened, the defense, spirit, and resistances and all were the same, but the damage requirement was upgraded from 3.8 billion, which was the original damage cap, from the original version of the Dark Visions, increased to 20.1 billion. This is by more than a factor of 5. Was a huge damage increase. And the other change that was done is not as big of a deal, but it is a little bit important, and we're going to talk about it. But they also changed the weakness on the physical fight from light and thunder to fire and thunder. That's more of a side grade than like a nerf or an upgrade or whatever you want to call it. But it was still a significant change. So, anything I missed, Gert?
No, I think that pretty much sums it up.
All right. So this change was not announced in advance. We didn't really, expect this. Okay, well, let me correct myself. The elemental weakness change was announced. That was in the monthly bulletin. So we knew that was coming. But
Right.
the damage cap being increased by more than 5 times was like a big surprise to everyone. Everyone was shocked and surprised. Yes, so before we go into all the specifics, I do want to just briefly mention about my previous video. Because in my previous video, I definitely get upset about various things in Brave Exvius over the course of playing this for 5-something years, or 6 years at this point. But normally I'm relatively chill about it. But in my video, I was like furious. I was so mad at the time, and that was because I was giving like a brief, like just a few minute explanation of the reason I was so mad and why my video was like so salty.
Yeah.
So Friday evening, I had spent basically my entire evening sitting down, planning out different teams for the next day for the Dark Visions. When it opened, I was gonna do my usual videos. People like to have the videos right away because timings and all that. So I spent a lot of time on Friday planning the teams. Also, while I'm doing this, I'm also chatting in Discord and people are talking, and a lot of people are speculating on the damage caps. What are they going to be? What are they going to be? A lot of people were saying they're going to be, as high as something like 20 billion. I think 20 billion is the highest they can possibly make it within the code, other than being uncappable. JP has like little benchmarks you can pick, and 20 billion is the highest you can pick outside of 99 billion, which is uncappable.
Right.
And a few people were joking, like they're going to do 20 billion, and like everyone knew that would be insane. And I kept like defending the global team. I'm like, there's no way they are going to do something like that. Y'all are crazy. It's not going to happen. I kept like defending them the whole time. Then The server resets, or the day resets. Dark Visions opens. I go in ready to do these fights, ready to record, all prepared. I'm thinking like maybe the damage cap is going to be increased from 3.8 to around like maybe 8.1, or I think 10.2 is the other threshold they could have raised it to. Nope. They did it. They went to 20.1 billion. I never thought in a million years they would do this, and they did. So all that like white knighting I had been done the whole evening was just a joke. I was made to look a fool, and then all the planning I had done for like my stuff, it seemed like it was a waste, because like the mage team, I was gonna do as much as like I think I was gonna do as high as 12 billion with my mage team, which is still pretty extreme. And I was like, yeah, this is now impossible at 20.1 billion. So I immediately got really, really irritated. And then instead of recording my clear, I hit record, and I went into the video that I posted on Friday or Saturday. And that was why I was so mad at the time. And I probably should have just like taken a chill for a bit and not recorded right away, but I did.
Yeah. Well, and I didn't get a chance to watch that video on Saturday morning because I was traveling. But like when I finally sat down and watched it, and I kind of compared that to like the commentary that I was seeing the other members of Discord, like the Discord, making about like how frustrated you were and like what mood you were in. Like when I put those two pieces together, that's when I was like, I'm going to give him a couple of days, and then I'm going to reach out and just say, hey, are you doing all right? Because like it was like above and beyond your like normal level of frustration over it. But it was pretty severe, and I think it's justifiably severe, just because it is a really huge change, especially one that comes out of nowhere. Like you said, we knew about the change to the elements, but not about the change to the cap. And even if they had said, hey, by the way, we're adjusting this because of the access to global exclusive units, that would have been one thing. But to jump from 3, we'll be nice and say 4, to jump from 4 to 20, that's bonkers, even if they had warned us.
Definitely. It was very, very high.
Yeah. But it sounds like you and I agree that because of our access to those units, that some degree of increase was needed to like make the game at least somewhat interesting.
Oh, for sure. Global frequently has made adjustments to Dark Visions. Almost like since it came out, they've either raised caps, or they've adjusted the defense itself, or they've changed resistances. They've removed the field. Like Global has almost always done some kind of tinkering every month with the Dark Vision, which is fine because the global units are far more powerful, so it's deserved. But they have never, that as far as I've been playing, 22 Dark Visions on Global, it has never been a massive leap like this. This is so far beyond anything they've ever done as far as buffing a fight. Yeah.
Crazy.
So also, they're also, and some people realize it wasn't just me frustrated. I'll call them out because they actually made videos. Like Liv Dilly was really angry and frustrated. Ellen Wanderer, another big Dark Visions player, he was very, very frustrated as well. Deuce Gaming made a video. He's very frustrated as well. And then tons of other people that don't have like YouTube channels were just talking in Discord, talking on Reddit. Like this is not like an isolated thing of like, oh, just a few people were salty. A lot of people were upset.
And I would say too, people who are across the broad spectrum of player types. I moderate in the Facebook group, and I saw players in there who don't spend a dime and who don't create any content being just as upset as players who do. And it was really interesting to see that the I would say broad scale impact of the change that, like I said, was just totally unexpected.
All right. So as far as the specific 2 changes, we're going to talk about them, briefly per boss. So for the physical boss, I think it was called, we've all been calling him Dark Leviathan. Is that his actual name in game? It might not even be.
I killed it once and walked away. So I don't even remember what it was.
All right, so we're just gonna call it the fish boss or the aqua
The
boss
fish boss.
or
There you go.
the physical boss.
Yeah, physical boss.
So this one, based on my calculations when I was doing my team setup and all, in advance, this one is actually, I don't want to call it reasonable, but with my team of some of the best units other than Balthier, my team can still hit as high as 22.5 billion damage with like Wilk, Chizuru, Esther, stuff like that. Like basically EX3 of the best on global minus Balthier. Like I could still hit 22.5 billion as a high end on that boss. But that is still like, again, that is like the best of the best. And I don't feel that the sub bosses should really be tuned to that level. How do you think, Gerrt? Like, do you think it's okay for a boss to be cappable as long as you've got like the top, let's just call it top 2% of players in the game only?
I mean, to me, whether or not it's cappable doesn't really seem to make a whole lot of difference. Because if any point of the event is uncappable, then really the whole thing is kind of uncappable. I think at that point, just capping things is just kind of like bragging rights for the players who can do it, and doesn't really net you any better rewards because you don't get a higher score from capping it than other than you get that amount of points, obviously. But like it doesn't really get you anything better to be able to cap it, because at that point, then just like the next phase that is not cappable, all the point spread is going to be like compressed in that one area. So I don't think it really makes that big of a difference, other than like it always has been. Like it's always been relatively accessible. I remember like the first time that I really started caring about capping some of these sub bosses was several months back. There was a boss that was like a bug boss that was weak to water and also did a bunch of water damage. And everyone was like, "Oh, you got to use Lord of the Seas Nicole," and I didn't have him, so I was like, "I'm going to figure this out." And like that's where I got really excited about doing it. And then like the next one, it just like started changing, and I stopped caring again. But like at that point, it was just like, I'm going to figure this out because it's a fun, interesting challenge. All of a sudden, needing to do this level of damage is no longer interesting, because I don't have EX3 everything top tier, and it's just like. I hit it pretty hard. I feel like I did like 10 billion or something like that, and then just like it's like whatever. It wasn't. I don't know.
Makes sense. And yes, I definitely completely agree that as far as the ranking goes, cappable or uncappable isn't really that big of a difference because the final boss is still going to separate players, etc. For me, the thing about it being like cappable is like the whole like goalpost thing. For me, it's purely a thing of fun. Like I have always approached these sub bosses, and this is more of me of like a content creator as I do like guides and stuff. I try to get these sub bosses because these I feel like are the more fun part of the Dark Visions. I actually don't even care that much about the final boss because that's uncappable and I see that as an impossible goal. So I'll usually do like one run on the final boss. I'll clear it. Maybe I'll run it 3 times, something for variance, and then I'm done. But I would usually go and do like multiple videos and team guides of the sub bosses. Not because I needed it specifically, but because there's lots of different levels of player, and some of them are like I definitely love all of you. But some of them are like, high spenders, limited time. They just want to go in there, show me the team to go in here and on turn 2 perfect score it with my expensive team. And I try to make those videos for players. There's also players that are like, I'm a really try-hard player, but I'm totally free to play. I have bad luck. My options are terrible. Show me how to perfect score this with like a big brain strategy. And I will attempt to try to make teams for those kind of players. And in the past, a lot of times I've been able to do that and show how to perfect score. And it's strictly, it's nothing to do with rank. It's just strictly a feel-good moment when you can go in there with this, like a complicated team using a cool little trick, like the reflect ring that everyone loves when I use that, or something like that. And you can get a perfect score, and it's like, It's awesome. It feels like for this boss at 20 billion, if you had this really, really involved strategy using like niche units, etc., and you got like 14 billion out of 20, it just feels a whole lot worse in my opinion.
Yeah, to spend that much effort trying to figure out something complicated and unique and interesting, and then have it like blow up in your face, it's totally demotivating. And there's actually a lot of science behind what you're talking about. I don't know how into like psychology you are, but like when you're working with somebody, people know I'm a therapist. When I'm working with somebody who is like trying to set goals for themselves, and they can set a goal that's like measurable, reasonable, and attainable, and time sensitive as well, but that's like not really relevant to this discussion. But like measurable, reasonable, and attainable, those three, your chances of actually achieving that goal because you're motivated and interested in it are going to go up dramatically, and it's going to feel a lot better when you do it because it was measurable. I could say, oh, there's a threshold that I have to hit in a certain amount of time or a certain amount of effort, and once I do it, it feels good that I achieved it because I was able to accomplish something. And that's going to motivate you to go forward and push for it. So there's science behind that. It's not just like you feeling good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that for me was the core of the big issue for me with this change is, like, even though like the physical boss can still be capped, and that one isn't the big deal. The bigger one is the mage. We're going to talk about that in just a minute, but yeah, but that was the one that frustrated me so much because it just took away all of that feeling of accomplishment, in my opinion. It just took it away, and it's like, Dark Visions, people that watch my channel know I'm not like a big Dark Visions fan, but I still do it, and I do enjoy some parts of it. And the biggest part that I enjoyed was the puzzle solving on the two final sub-bosses because they were decently tuned, they were reasonably doable, and it was a challenge, and it was a bigger challenge to do it with multiple different team compositions. And this one, even though, for example, the fish boss can be perfect scored, and I can perfect score that one. Like when it comes to like, well, what if I don't have Wilk and Esther? Well, you're not perfect scoring. End of story.
Yeah. But also, like you said, like the time investment that you put into it on Friday, trying to like plan for it, that's just like time that you don't get back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, the other change that I mentioned was the resistance change. This one, they changed it basically that they took away light element and they added fire element as a weakness. Now, it's pretty clear the reason they did this is because Vaughn is coming out this week, and Vaughn is a fire support unit, so they're like, well, let's give the physical fight a fire weakness instead, which is, I guess, I see the reasoning. Even though I kind of talk about this on Discord and Reddit a little bit, speaking from a meta perspective and a player that just not like business side but purely meta, I know, and most players that take Dark Vision seriously know, if a fight is weak to thunder and fire, you are not going to fire team. You're going a Sylvie thunder team. So Vaughn is never going to carry this fight while it's weak to thunder. So that was, like, I guess a business guy that doesn't play the game said, well, change it to fire, because now players are going to pull for Vaughn, and they're going to swap their team to fire. That's just not going to happen. It's not.
Not without the extreme level of fire support. Like, and there is good fire support, but not like Sylvie. I mean, Sylvie has changed the face of the game completely. So, like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And now the reason it was big, if that was just it'd be fine. Like, okay, it's, now weak to fire, we ignore that just like we ignore the other one. The big reason this was especially, like, more salt on the wound for me is because of Knights of Grand Shout. Knights of Grand Shout has had a long history on both the global and the JP server of being just negated, basically. So for people that aren't familiar with the whole backstory, I'll give like a really quick recap. It came out on JP. He had one special event, the Vision World with Dark Reign. That was for Knights of Grand Shout. It was weak to him, weak to Holy. He came out during that event. That was his event. After that, every trial going forward had 500% light resist. like multiple dark visions in a row, had all light immunity. He just got shut out for a long time. Like, you could still use him off element and all, but he was never a favored choice going forward until like way later. By then he was power crept.
Yeah.
Then on Global, he comes out on Global. He came out after the Dark Reign Vision World. So the one event that was actually made for him, he was late for. He came out after it had already closed. So on Global, Knights of Grand Shout never even got his one and only fight. So he came out. A lot of people pulled for him for the card, myself included. The card is amazing, no question. But the unit itself has never, ever had a chance to shine. This was going to be the first time that a boss was specifically weak to Holy for Knights of Grand Shout. He is also a very high Aqua Killer unit. He's Omni Killer, but he has very high Aqua Killer, which is one of the big problems with this fight, is it's a terrible killer, and almost no one has good bonuses to Aqua. Knights of Grand Shout did. The other very recent unit that is good against Aqua is Martial Artist Ma'am from the Dragon Quest collaboration. She has a 250 Aqua Killer buff, and she is locked to the light element. So these were two very relevant Aqua DPS that could have gone on to a Thunder team and dual element dealt damage to this boss, and both of them were just like heavily nerfed by removing the light element. That's why it frustrated me. Again, this is not the core of the issue here, but it's just like, one more, needle on the haystack or whatever.
Right, and what an interesting way to have rewarded players who like decided to spend on those banners. I don't know. It just seems like unnecessary, and just from this is like a fluff thing. But why would you make a fish weak to fire? It doesn't make any sense. I don't get it. I'm not a businessman, but I think it should have been light, and not even for any reason, like just because fish should be weak to light, but like something should be weak to light finally, right? At some point something has to be weak to light again, and why not reward players like that? I don't know.
Exactly. What I feel they should have done is, instead of taking away the light weakness, they should have just added fire, leave it weak to 3 elements. There's been multiple Dark Visions and Vision Worlds where bosses have multiple weaknesses. For example, the Lord of Jewels, this is the JP server, it's one that Global actually skipped, but the Lord of Jewels was weak to 6 out of 8 elements. So it's not like they can't make it weak to 3 elements. They could easily. So they could have easily just added fire weakness and left the light weakness alone. It would have been a way better thing. Like, that is just pure positive and no downside. By taking away things, it leaves a negative feeling. So they could have added and not taken away. It would have been fine.
They could have even done like the most recent Clash of Wills has done, where it's got a primary weakness and 2 sub weaknesses.
Yep, that could have been.
They could have done Thunder, or even heck, they could have made Fire its primary and like made that like minus 120 or something like that, and then Thunder and Light minus 100.
Exactly. That could have been a great change. But hopefully that gets fixed or taken into consideration in the future. And then there's the other boss, the Gerrtt84, the magical fight. This one was also increased to 20.1 billion. It's a magical fight weak to wind and earth. This is the one that most people are frustrated about. Like I said, the fish fight has options. Physical is so strong, we can actually still do 5 times higher than the JP cap. The Gygas fight is another matter entirely. Now, I will say, players have capped this. It is possible. Like, maybe 5 players in the server have capped this. But it is technically possible. So even though I may say things like it's uncappable, it technically is. But by, like, of the thousands or, I don't even know, millions of players of Brave Exvius, maybe 5 people have capped this fight. So, yes. How do you
Spoiler
feel about
alert,
this one?
I'm not one of them.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't either. By my calculations, my best team did a 12 billion at like a perfect variance roll. So on average, maybe like 9 to 10.
Yeah, I honestly, when I was just kind of going through for completion points, I just took my physical Earth team, and I know this is not a fair comparison because the way its stats are balanced out. But like when I took my physical team in there, my physical Earth team, I did 800 million.
Oh wow, that's pretty low.
With an M, you know. And then I said I'm gonna go back and try and do a Magic team, and I did 1.4 billion with like, you know, half an hour of trying to just like spec and gear units. And I was like, no, this is not interesting. It's just like I'm not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the problem with this one is mostly just the mechanics of Brave Exvius and the way that most mages are element locked. There are some that are not. For example, like the obvious super MVP on this fight is Angela, the limited unit. And some people have said, like, as criticism for me, like, I'm so frustrated because I don't own Angela. And I don't own Angela. And she is a big deal for this fight. And while, yes, I am a little frustrated that I skipped her, that is not the reason I'm frustrated at this Dark Visions at all. That is not the problem. Even players that have an EX3 perfectly geared Angela, she is not enough. She does, I think I saw from some of the players I've seen, like the high-end players, they're doing like 7 to 8 to maybe 9 billion damage with Angela. And even assuming she could do more, she's still a one-hitter. The most she could ever do is 10 billion. Hard cap. And then, like, where do you go from there? Who's the next best wind and earth unit? So, like, premium Darkfina and the recent, like, I think
Leftia.
Leftia, yeah. So these are options. Like, you need all of these at, like, EX3, super whaled gear. Like, you need, like, multiple copies of Dark Range Vision card, a premium EX3 card. You need super great gear, probably level 130 in all these. And even then, even with every single of these super crazy options, you still have to rerun the fight over and over and over and over. 12 turn fight because it's Angela.
Because Angela, yeah.
12 turns per attempt, fishing for that really high variance roll where everyone rolls really high variance to get that 20.1 billion. And again, as far as I'm aware, like, very, very, very few players have done this. Most players, it's impossible. For the majority of the people that can still do it, they don't want to because it is not fun. And once again, we come back to the core problem. It's not fun. That is the big, major problem, is it makes players not like the content. It makes them lose interest in Dark Visions as a whole. And that's just not good for the game long term at all. And that is, again, all kind of reasons why I was so frustrated with this. And a lot of other players too.
Absolutely. And I have an EX3 Angela. And I don't have the motivation to sit there for 12 turns on this just to squeak out, you know, a little bit more damage.
Yeah.
Because I don't have everything else that I'm gonna need to even get close to what else it takes. And like, I mean, I've seen players who do have pretty much every unit. You know, I was, like I said, I was traveling and I wasn't really playing a whole lot, but I was watching Discord and stuff, and I was watching Flip Method try and tweak this, and I don't know if he actually did manage to cap it, but I was watching him, you know, change this and adjust this, and you try this unit and try that, and like trying to be really creative. And I think that, you know, Flip is really good at that level of, like, you know, I'm going to try and use everything that I've got available to me and come up with this like really creative, interesting strat. And like he wasn't. I don't know if he did it yet, but when I was watching, he was like getting like 14.6, 16.8, like just like kind of like dancing around that area and like not really, you know, you still got a ways to go at that point. And for him, who's got pretty much every access to everything that you might need to not get there, like I have no chance. Like I'm gonna take my completion points and roll out of here.
Exactly. And something I wanted to talk about this whole thing in general is like ways it can, in my opinion, negatively affect you know, just different like types of players. So we kind of already talked about this briefly a little bit, but like, for example, the really high end players, the big spenders, they've got every option in the book. A fight that is tuned so crazy, like the mage fight, where you have to run variants over and over and over and over to get that high score. I feel like that can kind of frustrate players because, I mean, they're already running variants on the final boss, and now it's adding extra bosses they have to run, you know, variants until they can feel like they can move on. It adds like a pressure. Like, you know, I'm spending 3 days rerunning this mage fight. These are 3 days I'm not spending on the final boss, which is another boss I need to optimize my score. And it can like lead to burnout. It's frustration. I feel like that it is not good to have multiple bosses that are tuned this way.
I think it definitely contributes to it not being fun, which is, like you said, the core issue. And I think it's impractical for some people, like the amount of time that takes to do it. I know really hardcore people will, like, you know, set up a macro to do it. But like not everybody has that level of like insight or ability, or time or, you know, whatever. But I think also it's a huge waste of, like, I know if I had spent money on a unit with the intention that I was going to be able to cap something and beat something, and then all of a sudden I couldn't, I would feel like that was a huge waste of my resources.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
And kind of an insult to the fact that I did it.
Mm-hmm. I agree completely. And then the effect this has on other players, like I said, we kind of already covered that already, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I said, you know, it's just not fun for me, and it makes me enjoy it less, etc. So we already covered that topic.
Yeah. Well, I know I can say this. A lot of players just straight up aren't doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They saw that you weren't doing it, and a lot of players just said, "I'm just not going to do it."
That is, I was going to talk about that at the end, but that's a good, you know, move into the new topic. So about like players not clearing the event and period, and absolutely, I definitely said that. I explained furious in the moment. I'm just raging at everything. I said I'm not going to do it, and I haven't done it at the moment. But is that a good move? How do you feel, Gerrtt? Is it like a good thing for players to just not clear dark visions? Do you think that's gonna make them care more, or is it gonna just hurt the player by just skipping on rewards? How do you feel about that?
I think if people don't play and I think communication is so important. I'm going to say that first and foremost. I think communication both ways is super, super important. And so, like, if you don't play Dark Visions, the only message that it sends to them is this person didn't feel like playing Dark Visions. It doesn't send the message, I'm frustrated. It doesn't send the message, I thought this was unfair and you're doing a bad job. It doesn't send the message, I didn't pull on the units and now I'm going to. It doesn't send any of those messages. All it sends is, this player didn't play Dark Visions. They didn't collect their free rewards. And I think that as a player who plays in a specific way, you know, tries to be smart with their resources and tries to gather everything that they can, you know, you do get a fair amount of usable resources from just getting completion points in Dark Vision. So for me, I went in, I got my completion points, I got my dark matter and my tickets and everything else that it gives you, and I rolled out. And I think that for free players, you kind of have to do that if you want to have any chance of being able to pull units and get weapons and do stuff. So I think that skipping it in that sense is not smart. I think that skipping it in the sense that you're trying to send a message doesn't accomplish anything. If you want to send them a message, you know, make a video, give your feedback through the feedback portal, you know, file a ticket, you know, let them know what it is. You know, you might feel like it's not going anywhere, but as somebody who's worked in tech support before, that's how you communicate to them. That's the best way to communicate to them, is to be outwardly vocal and very clear about what your message is and not just take a protest. Now, if you go out there and you say in your clear, direct message, I'm protesting, this is why I'm doing this, that is different. But if you just don't participate, it's the same as just not voting in an election. Your vote's just not counted. No one knows why you didn't vote or that you didn't vote even. There's no vote.
Mm-hmm. Yep, makes sense. Kind of agree. For me, like I said, I kind of like was just raging, heat of the moment, and I said that, and then like the next day, there was like a post on Reddit saying we should all like get together and boycott, and like, you know, it was kind of like, you know, it's nice that people are showing support and all, but at the same time, I was thinking in my head, like, this is not really what I wanted to start, like a movement to boycott Dark Visions. I didn't really intend for this.
Yeah.
So yes, I kind of agree with Gerrtt for the most part. Yeah, not clearing it is basically mostly just hurting ourselves. So we really should just go in there and get your clear rewards. Now, maybe you don't want to spend hours re-rolling variants and try hard in the team, but at the very least, go in there and like turn 1 OTK it and get your completion rewards. So that I think should be done. And also, just as a little aside, I have also been getting a ton of people saying, "Can you please show me like guides, etc." for these dark?" Because a lot of people are just used to following a guide, and they sub to my channel or your channel or anyone's channel, and a lot of people are not doing them. Like I said, I didn't do any. Liv Dilly didn't do any. Wanderer didn't do any. So a lot of people that usually are making guides are not, and it's almost like the players are the ones that are caught in this and getting hurt because of it. So I will probably go this weekend, and thankfully the work is already done. Like I said, Friday night, my whole Friday evening was planning this Dark Vision. I've still got all those notes and all, and the turn charts, and the teams are already built. They're already geared. So I literally just have to walk in there and run the team. So for me, it's already done. So I guess I'll do that either tonight or tomorrow and post it, and people can copy that, or just take the basics and modify it for a quick OTK for less effort. But people should get their Dark Vision rewards, because we're going to talk about more at the very end of this, but the dark matter is going to matter in the future. And now, and I've had it on the screen the whole time. We've not even talked about it.
Yeah,
but the letter from the global production team, they have addressed the issue. So I don't really want to read the whole thing word for word, but basically there's a few different points. First of all is the fact that they are acknowledging the players, period. So I guess maybe I should read some of it. So we strive to make balance adjustments to make better experience for all players. They acknowledge the recent concerns about the balancing of the Dark Vision. So they're recognizing in the best way they can. You got to realize they are like a corporation. They've got bosses to answer to, so they can't just straight up say, we realize it's not good, whoops. They can't really say that. So this is about the best you're going to get from a corporation, is they're recognizing that there's a problem.
Yeah.
So that's fine. They at least realize and sort of agree that there was a problem here.
Well, they recognize and realize that we're concerned.
Yes.
And they say, yes, those concerns are real, and we hear you.
Yeah. And the next thing is, basically, they are not going to be changing the current Dark Vision. There's going to be no changes whatsoever. But for future Dark Visions, they will be definitely taking this feedback into consideration and doing something. What they do, I guess we'll find out next month. But they're not changing the current Dark Vision. Now, I personally am happy about this. I don't want them to change Dark Vision. If people remember my I guess I do rant a lot. Is my ranting about I forget the Clash of Woes, but I think it was Shenmue, maybe.
It was Shenmue, yeah.
Okay, yeah, where they changed it in the mid event, and the first week guides were all just, a lot of them then were ruined. The fight was either harder or easier for players. It caused a big humbug. Players were upset because they changed Clash of Wills in the middle of the event. This time they're not doing that. So is this the right call, Gerrtt?
I think so. Especially because, I've said this already, but them changing it to where it's all of a sudden cappable does nothing but compress the ranks and then just decompresses them in the last phase. Because if any bit of it is uncappable, the event is uncappable. It does not matter. So I think that all that does is makes people feel good about being able to, I hit the benchmark for the sub bosses, and now I'm on to go fight the true final boss, which is variants. And it's just, I don't think it really changes anything for them to fix that in the middle of this event. The fights technically work. They even technically work as intended, the way they were designed theoretically, because the cap is what it is. It's functioning, doesn't need to be changed.
I definitely agree. While I like,
it's annoying.
Yes, exactly.
But please, it's fine.
Now, and this goes back to what you said, communication and all. If they had announced the cap change in advance. Like people that do like, spreadsheets and all, we could have like addressed this issue before the fights opened. Maybe they could have changed. They could have like, we realized that, the cap maybe is a little bit too high on, Friday. And then by Saturday, they could have changed it before anyone cleared it. So, communication would have been a real help here in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing is they are going to be mailing out 800 dark matter to all players. This is the ranking rewards dark matters, meaning if you were scored high enough to earn any dark matter at all, you're not going to be getting that specific dark matter. Everyone is getting the rank 1 dark matter of 800. Now, I am less happy about this. Now, Gerrtt, I'll let you go first. How do you feel about this?
In today's meta, I could not care less about 800 dark matter. The way the game is right this moment, I don't care. Because all the weapons that we have access to are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I feel about that.
Yeah, the dark matter is mostly whatever. For me, it was also... I honestly didn't even really want compensation. Like, I at no point in my discussion of this issue has it ever been, please compensate me. My compensation is fixing the problem right up here. This is my compensation. You did it in the first paragraph. Thumbs up. I am happy you addressed the problem, and hopefully you're going to be doing something about it in next Dark Visions. That is what I wanted. This is almost like a negative for me because it makes it seem like players are complaining because they wanted a compensation.
Mm-hmm.
In no way did I ever want any kind of compensation. And in fact, I have seen some players on Reddit and Discord, they're saying, this is not enough. We need, like, some players are going insane as much as saying we need 50,000 Lapis because that is also a rank 1 reward. Like, that is so beyond insane. No.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. And it's not really the point. People who are complaining about being able to cap a boss are not complaining because they want dark matter.
Exactly, or any compensation at all.
They're complaining. They're complaining for anything because they want their investment in the game to have purpose, meaning, and value for them to be able to play it the way they want to play it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the point of playing a game.
Yep. Now, that being said, I don't want to also seem like rude. Like, this is maybe like kind of like a peace offering, not really intended as like a specifically compensation. This is more of like, we kind of made a mistake. Here's like a token gesture to apologize, which is fine. Again, I don't want to seem like ungrateful or anything. So it's nice that they're doing something. I just don't think it was necessary, and I just really don't want it to cloud the issue of what I feel the core issue was, which was I can only speak for myself, but for me, the fun of the event was reduced, and that was my problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even before this, Dark Visions was pretty much like my least favorite of all the events that we have to do, but this just like sapped the fun out of it completely. Exactly.
And as a final note, this was not really on my talking points, but because dark matter is brought up, this has always been a little bit of a concern, and this actually was brought up quite a bit in the past. At this point, people have just given it up. But dark matter in general per Dark Visions event. So for players, again, that don't really follow the JP server, on the JP server, at some point, I don't know the exact number, but I'm going to throw out a number. Around Dark Visions number 10 or 12, the reward for the higher ranks for Dark Matter went up to 2,000 per event. Global has never brought over that change, and our Dark Matter has remained at 800 forever. So we're now like more than a year past the point where your dark matter income should have increased. Now, this is mostly, and the reason no one really talks about it, because for the most part, no one really cares, because the one-handed weapons are basically worthless. I mean, for newer players, they're fine, but for like high-end players that are scoring high in Dark Visions, we're not doing it with the one-handed Dark Visions weapons. But the reason this matters is on the JP server, they have recently added two-handed Dark Vision's weapons. And as you can see in the screenshot here, they cost per weapon 10,000 dark matter. Now, this is my account on the JP server where I'm pretty casual about Dark Visions, but I'll still score in the decent amount. I'll usually get like the upper amounts of Dark Visions per month in JP. And I had, before buying the katana, I had about 37,000 dark matter. That's after doing, up to the current point in JP. I double-checked on my global server where I have always been in the top 500 for Dark Vision, so I've always gotten the highest tier of dark matter. I looked it up and I wrote it down. What was it again? It was 17,000 dark matter, so less than half the amount. So the reason this is a concern is the reason these dark matter weapons were so expensive is because they're powerful, but because there was a certain expected income of dark matter over time. Global has not had that. Global has also not changed the price of the one-handed weapons. So once we get to this point and players just can't afford to buy all the weapons, is that going to be a problem, Gerrtt?
I think it will become a problem very quickly for a lot of players who, who have maybe never bothered with Dark Visions, who suddenly want their really awesome two-handed weapon. Now, I will say though, there's been times in the past where they've made some changes to things, and to compensate for the change to things, they give out a bunch of something to compensate. So the one that I'm thinking of was when they made a change to the amount of XP you were supposed to get when you use a limit burst. And this is it might seem unrelated, but when they did that, they also fed us hundreds of limit burst pots to make up for the difference, to get us caught up. So maybe there'd be something, hopefully there would be something where if they did that, where they realize, oh, there's this discrepancy, they either reduce the cost or say everybody gets 100,000 dark matter. Which would be nutty and pointless, but hopefully something at that point would be oh, we got to get caught up, because that's a big discrepancy.
Yep.
And a year's worth of increased currency is a huge discrepancy.
Yep. And the reason I'm bringing this up is not specifically to complain, it's just to raise awareness. I would rather talk about this now instead of in approximately 5 months when these are quote unquote due to come. I say that because Global is known for delaying things, but I don't want this to come to Global and then the global team has just not really potentially considered that, oh, Global has had less income for over a year and maybe we need to adjust these prices. Maybe on Global these will only cost 5,000 dark matter. Something like that, to account for the fact that we have had significantly less dark matter for over a year. So 1,200 less per month times 12, and I'm going to break out my calculator because I'm not good at math.
There with you.
That's approximately 14,000 less dark matter we have at this point. In 5 months, it'll be about 20,000 dark matter less than the expected amount. Because, these prices are set based on the expected amount. In JP, they're getting 2,000 per month. On Global, we're getting 800 per month. So if Global just copies over the 10,000 price, that's going to be too expensive for a lot of players. So I just wanted to bring that up, because it is a Dark Visions video.
Well, in March or April of next year, when we see this, I'll go ahead and reserve my spot on this video for us to rant about it together, since we're here talking about it in August.
Awesome.
Yep.
But that's basically what I wanted to cover. Is there anything that you wanted to say before we end it, Gerrtt?
No, I think we've talked it out. I think so. So I guess one question I do have for you, because I know a lot of people in the Discord you hang out in are concerned. Are you feeling better?
Yes. The fact that they address, if they had, for example, said nothing, done nothing, I would have honestly felt like either they were ignoring the player base or they are just tone deaf, and either way I would have felt bad. So I am thrilled that they at least addressed it. Now, I also have seen some players say, as a critique, well, in the past they've done the same thing and then it happens again. That could happen. Maybe next month nothing will change. It'll come out. It'll be the next Dark Visions do is the magical fight is Dark Aemon. It's again got 1.2 million defense. So yes, it is very possible. Next Dark Visions comes along, absolutely nothing changes, and people will probably be upset again. I hope that doesn't happen because like they are saying they're going to consider it. They're going to make changes or at least consider the future Dark Vision. So I'm going to choose to be optimistic and hope they keep their word. Will they or not? Time will tell.
I'm hearing you say you're not giving up on the game. You're not giving up on Dark Visions. You're giving up on this Dark Visions the way it is tuned and designed.
Yes, but I will go.
But get your completion points.
Yes. The teams I ran or I planned out. I'll go ahead and run them probably tomorrow. And I will post the videos. I'll post the churn chart. Like the work is literally already done. So I'll run it once or twice. I'll record it. I'll post the turn chart. People can use that to score the best they can. The team I'm going to show you can perfect score Leviathan. It can do approximately 12 billion on the mage fight, and I think I calculated about 14 billion on the final boss.
That's rad. Can't wait to see it.
Yep. So okay. Thanks again for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be a part of the discussion.
All right. See you guys next time.
Take care, guys.